thought you were actually interested.
I am interested. If you get that box checked on that table, I'm really happy.
All right, so is it time? Not quite time, not quite time.
That's right.
So, you've seen our agenda?
Actually.
No, okay,
Five,
so I'll go over the
May
agenda to
31st.
begin with.
May.
Yes. Um,
Spit today, but.
so you were on the email, I think, that Sky sent out about the planning board agenda and the list of my Tom Lister
His code.
things,
Certain, yes,
okay. But we haven't started recording yet, have we?
we are recording.
We are recording,
Yes.
you little bugger. All right, we're calling this meeting to order. This is the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee, and it is June 8th. And we're glad to welcome a couple of guests today. We have Mike Labby with us, and we have Andrew Sturgeon with us. I think both of you are familiar with what we're working on. So what we normally do after the welcome is an agenda review, and if there's anything anybody wants to alter in the agenda, I have one item to add, which is, I think it was just this morning, I sent around to the committee an email that Sky had sent to me on Friday, with the attachment of a long list of items, some small and some larger, that Tom Lister had made note of that needed to be, corrected in the code. So I would like to just put that down, and that is the planning board agenda for this coming Thursday, the 11th.
I never got your email or Sky's.
It wasn't Sky's, it was, I forwarded it. Did you guys, Pete, did you?
Got it.
Oh, good.
Maybe it's something I don't know, maybe.
Um,
Been nice being on this committee, guys.
well, let me just,
Yeah, you may be recommended. Especially if you did get them.
Actually, I got it from Sky. Because I'm my liaison planning board.
right. Well, nothing to be done now. All I can do is apologize to you, Chuck, but I thought I sent it around this morning. But that's an additional item under recode matters. All right, so what we'll do to start off with is if there's any, we always open it in the beginning part of the meeting for public comment. If there's any thoughts or questions or concerns that you want to raise then, or as we go along, you're welcome to do that. So I'll just open it if you have any. Yeah,
I'll tell you why I'm here.
sure.
My involvement right now, mostly since I retired, I'm still working with Crooker. To help them relocate the operations to another location. And in turn to open up that 54 acres for development down the road. As it's shown in the comprehensive plan. And I don't know if everybody knows, but we tried to rezone some residential and industrial and we weren't successful, but we do have other industrial and it's not the most efficient location, but it's better than where it is today. So we're probably gonna move it to that existing industrial. However, our operations there are not allowed in industrial because there's a box in the code that has check marks on what things are allowed and what things aren't, but there are many boxes that are blank. And because the box is blank, we feel that we could be challenged and probably wouldn't be successful. Maybe not in relocating, but we'd rather see the chart be corrected. We've got correspondence with the town since 2020 that it was gonna be done and it was gonna be done in a separate thing, but then it got thrown into recode. And you know where recode is. So I want to just make sure that it goes forward, whether it's. I'd like to see it be in the package here and move forward, but at the same time, if it isn't, I'm gonna push to have it done in another avenue. I don't know how.
Yeah.
Whether it's a special, something similar to what happened at Union Street if I had to, just just because I think it's important for the community to relocate that. Unfortunately, the batch plan is allowed in the limited industrial, which is right next to the school, but I don't think you'd want to put a batch plant next to a school, which should be out in the industrial where everybody knows it should go. So that's my interest today, is focused on that to get that resolved as soon as possible.
The use code, the use tables.
Right, that's right.
Okay.
Any idea why I made so many blanks?
Tom Lister's given me a story in history. There was just, I don't know, it was a mistake. There was no intent.
Right,
It was something, but again, it was noticed as early as 6 years ago. Probably before that, and this was done in 2008. So,
Yeah, that's definitely my understanding too, that the blanks in it are, it was not a purposeful decision.
right, right. And that's one of the things that I think, Andy, you were on CPIC still when we took up the question of, when Tom came to our meeting. And we talked about, he brought a long list, several pages, and he talked about what some of those were. And it was clear that some of them were very minor,
Yeah.
but some of them were more substantive, and they took some discussion. And so I think he got through like one out of maybe 4 pages. And we said, okay, that's enough. We know that you've identified a lot that are, just things.
now there's 71 of them, this list, I think.
Yeah, there are a lot.
Tom's list.
Yeah, that's right. And one of the things we're gonna talk about today, I think, when we get to that later in the agenda, is we went through one draft, the April draft that's on the website with Tom. And I was sure that Tom then went through those changes and made those changes with Kirk Bishop.
That's why I'm here.
Am I correct or not? We don't know.
I'm not sure.
Okay, so that needs to be taken back to,
I'd love to know that.
and Sky may not know. I think Sky might have been in your position then. I think that was a Julie Erdman era.
But because Crooker was sold last December 31st to the employees, it's an ESOP, it's an employee-owned company now, so
Yep.
that's another reason I'm representing them as opposed to my brother now.
Right, right.
My other understanding with Tom's list is that the list itself was meant to be something of a, it was a way to show that the way that the code is currently written, because it's been a bit Frankensteined together over time, there are lots of things that don't work together very well. And so that list is just my understanding was that list was a way of showing, like, here's an example of some things, and it may not be fully definitive.
Well, and that's one of the things, I think, we'll get to this in a second. That's, I think, one of the things where that's gonna be taken up this Thursday. And I think it would be kind of a demonstration of the need for a townwide review of the code. That's what it would, we'll see how the planning board responds to that topic. So, anything, thank you, Andy, for bringing that
And
forward.
full disclosure, I'm doing this with the planning board too, to try to get that.
Of course, no, of course,
Forward,
yeah.
so.
everywhere you can.
I'm gonna go take a call and make that.
Okay, Just come on in.
Ask a question
yes,
relative to this topic.
yeah, sure.
How can something this important remain
Unsolved.
idle, unaddressed, not corrected, I don't know what the right word is, for 6 years, right? That's at least 72 meetings. If I did the math correctly.
That's right. And where does the responsibility lie? It is a very good question. I unfortunately can't answer it, at least.
Are there answers that have been proposed for each of those 70 some boxes, or 12 boxes, or however many?
I think we have to look at Tom's list. I mean, he indicates what some of the problems are. And I think there are proposals. But
Okay,
one of,
all right.
you know, one of the things that we were looking at his list, roughly around the same time, I think, that we were taking questions and comments in our online form. And we met around those very carefully, and answers were developed, and many of them were referred to the planning board, that this is now in the hands of the planning board for review. So I don't know, we have to determine probably after this meeting and before our next, maybe before the planning board meeting, where some of that list is. But there, you know, there is an answer. It will come forward. And the question will show up in the minutes. How about that?
There's one bucket. It's empty because it was never addressed. Shame on whomever, right? There's another bucket that has something in there that, for whatever reason, just technically doesn't work with all the rest of the stuff around it, so it has to be tweaked. If I can say it that way. Then there's others that just needs to be
Yeah.
voted on.
Yeah. Yes.
Maybe there's only a few of those, but at least, but none of that.
Well, I mean, when we discovered, I think that's one of the things that had been accumulating. When CPIC was first formed, and we were working with the planning director, Rod Melanson, at the time, he was aware that there were a number of things, you know, Frankenstein is a good word, jerry-rigged is another word, where, you know, there had been patched changes that didn't work smoothly, you know, one section with another.
Mhm.
And so when we started having that conversation, it seemed to, I think, all of the members of CPIC at the time, which was quite a different crew then, and we were all very early in the learning curve. It seemed to us that that was a very good rationale for why we should look at and take this opportunity, use the town's, you know, resources to look at the whole code and come out with, you know, a better code, little changes and larger changes that would work for everybody for the future. So that it takes us right back to the beginning. And it's been a long time, and without going through lots of minutes and notes. So let's move on. Mike, do you have any questions or concerns, just to sort of be here and?
Sorry to be here, what's going on,
Wonderful.
get your feeling how things are, because I was at the other meeting,
Yeah,
everything on.
great. So, and if there are any questions along the way, just chime right in.
I mean,
Yeah.
You on one of the boards here?
What was-
Okay. Andy Fitch.
Good to know who's doing what.
Yeah.
That's right.
I
Okay.
feel your pain, so.
So we're gonna move on to the administrative items. Don't anybody snore. We have May 11th, 2026 minutes that were distributed. And I wonder if folks were able to have a look at those. Are there any corrections or additions there? Seeing none, are we unanimous in approving those?
Is that a motion?
I don't think we even need one. We're just gonna say unanimously. Would you like to be formal and yes, Chuck is making a motion
Second.
and Pam is seconding this. Okay, yep. Chuck moved. Pam.
Yeah, move it.
second. Okay, is there any discussion?
Okay.
No, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right.
We can do that.
Yes, now, there's, the notes of the May 19th workshop. That was our last meeting, so we had our regular meeting on May 11th, and we decided during that meeting, we realized that it would be very wise to look very carefully at the current proposed town center zones compared to the current zones. Because we had not, to be honest, ever done that. You know, the consultant, and early on, we had a map. And then there were some small changes made, and since then, we've just taken it as is. So we focused our workshop, our third Tuesday of the month workshop on the 19th, completely on that comparison. And there was one area, I have to look at those notes for a quick minute, because I need to, there was something in that, let's see if I can find them quickly. There was something that we need to discuss further. And let's see if I can recode. That's probably gonna be quicker for me to actually look at. Did I send you a link? You got, look at you. Yeah, the village center. Right, Park Drive. That, I think that's the only thing that we discussed. The mixed transitional zone is a new zone. It's along Union Park Road and Park Drive in the Topsham Fair Mall. And there have been some, big questions around that, and so we talked about wanting to talk further about that. I have a feeling today is not the time that's gonna happen. But, mixed transition, yes.
Yeah,
So
Did you get it? I didn't get a copy. You didn't get a copy either.
it was a link that was sent.
It's a link.
It was a link.
To
You
the
had to,
drive,
you had to
to the
look,
email.
it was in the email. You
Oh.
had to check the link.
I don't think they.
You got it. I know you did, because Pam got it. And anyway, so if you haven't had a chance to review it, what we were gonna do is approve those notes so that they could be posted on the website. Let's see. Mm-mm. So we will do that another time. Apologies. But the thing to me that we went through that map, and there were some changes, very minor changes in the lower village. Have you ever looked at the proposed
Yeah.
town center zones
Yeah, the map.
compared to the current zones? Oh, you have? So there are maybe 3 or 4 parcels that are different.
So
And the reason they're different is there are some parcels that fall into 2 different zones in the current zones.
Mm.
And that's not good practice, to have somebody's property fall into 2 different zones. And so I think there were some conversations with the town assessor who said, this is an opportunity to correct that. So we took that opportunity, but it's important for us to know that that's why that change happened. And similar changes in the, not the middle village, but the upper village. So anyway, that's what we did in the workshop. And I circulated a letter of support that was sent in with the grant proposal for the Topsham Conservation Commission. I know all of you saw it because you gave me some feedback and some changes were made, and Sky put it on letterhead and it went. So, but what I'd like to do is, for the purpose of having it in the minutes, that we actually approve that. So can I have a motion?
I move that we accept the letter that was sent to the.
Letter of support, yeah.
Yeah.
For TCC, and is there a second?
Second,
Thank you. Any discussion on that? I think that's actually the second time we've ever sent such a letter, which, and all in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's all of the admin stuff. And now we're moving on to recode and I would love to have it opened up a little bit to folks who have, I think, Pete, you were there at the meeting. And I attended virtually.
I watched it
You
later.
watched it later, the recording, and Chuck, were you watching
Live.
the live? Yeah,
Live on Zoom, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Which is, it's just a reminder that we didn't used to be able to do that. When CPIC first started doing its work, it was during the pandemic. So all of our meetings were on Zoom, which, at least, and then there was some kerfuffle about, does it have to be in person? And I think it allows people to tune into meetings who, you can't always get childcare, or you might not feel comfortable driving at night if you're at a certain age. So, it lets people participate in the life of the town. And that's actually one of the big ideas in the 2019 plan is open government, open governance. So, the town has done a lot of things to open things up. Minutes posted, documents posted. So anybody want to sort of talk about your takeaways from that meeting?
The discussion of the consultants by the planning board. The conclusion, I think, was that they didn't have much faith in the consultants' ability to assist in clarifying things for them. The answers that they heard, I guess they were confusing for them. And which leads me to believe that any future meetings that are conducted with the planning board are gonna kind of raise the hair in the back of their neck if any consultants are present.
Right. And at the same time, there's a contradiction because I heard one person say very specifically, we want the consultants present at the meeting,
I think they want a different.
a different
consultant. They
consultant.
don't want the current
Right.
consultants.
Right,
And you can't get somebody to pick up in the middle of it.
That's right.
They don't want to touch it.
yeah,
Yeah, Sky had looked into that. Yeah, I don't remember which consultant she had reached out to, but that's exactly it. Typically, they don't want to jump into a halfway
right,
project.
right.
So the consultant that she had reached out to, my understanding was that they said, thank you.
Right.
So what's the resolution to?
I think we need to think about that. And so, more conversations will be had.
Okay.
What did the consultant do for us? What did the consultant provide in the way of services?
They looked at the comprehensive plan.
Yep.
They did the project direction memo, which is currently on the website. That was the first thing we did, and they came to Topsham. They'd never been here before. And there was a presentation at the library. I think it was October 6, 2021. And that was actually cited by, I think, Planning Board Chair Span in his remarks to the select board a month or two ago.
It was hard, it was COVID too.
Well, that was in the beginning, it was COVID, yeah, but that was far enough after COVID that they came and we had a session at the library. It was reasonably well attended. And a few other select board members came. It was a different select board at the time. And a couple of members of the planning board came. And we had
Some developers.
yes, some developers at a lunch session. And it was like a roundtable conversation, but it was based on that project direction memo. And, you know, based on laying that out, they looked very carefully at the comprehensive plan and proposed a way forward. And we agreed on that. Reports were made to the select board about that, and they authorized forward motion with that. They've created the code that you've looked at. I have it here. They created this. So if, when you're wondering what services they provided, they created this code. Does that answer you sufficiently or insufficiently?
What I was poking at is, could that text have been crafted, built, written by anybody who knows and understands kind of the structure of law, but not necessarily the specifics?
Let me back up a little bit more. These are consultants. When we put out a request for proposal, right? That we got, I think we got 5 or 6 proposals. And we looked at those, all of the committee did, and the director of planning. And we decided that we would interview, I think, 4 of those. We interviewed them. And then we broke it down and we made our choice. It was not a unanimous choice, but there were other consultants. There was one from here in Maine, and there was another group, I think, from the same area. I'm not sure, but I think they're from Chicago. And, you know, for various reasons, this team, Leslie Oberholzer and Kurt Bishop, were selected. And they've given us what we have. As Josh just said, Sky has checked with another consulting firm that has worked in Maine. They're not based in Maine, but they've worked in Maine, and I think they've worked in Bath and Portland. They're getting familiar with Maine. And you know, to explore whether they would pick this project up. And they said, no.
What the reason my question was,
Yeah,
if for whatever reason, we can't find a person with the title consultant,
it's the expertise we don't care about. I mean, thousands of people have the title consultant, but we need somebody with the expertise in planning and land use codes, including form-based code.
are you sure
That's,
that's the position of the planning board?
I'm not
As the
I'm not
planning
understanding
board-
your,
As a planning board, or is that one person in the planning board, is she uncomfortable with the current person, or is she uncomfortable with
I don't think it was just
We-
one person. I don't think, it
however
was-
many people?
yeah,
it is?
yeah,
Or-
we can just say the planning board is not comfortable.
With the person, or with the idea of having a consultant?
No,
in
I
place?
think it's the consultant we had. The most recent one, and I think you were there at the meeting, there was a workshop where the property across the street was described.
Yes,
And our consultant offered, I think, 3 different sketches
Yeah.
of how that property could be developed.
Yep.
None of those addressed the density issue that would allow that project to be successful.
88 units down to 44.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
but what we
Argue,
heard,
was 88 too much?
what we heard
I don't know.
in that meeting, and I don't know if you heard it, Andy, but I heard that if we allowed the general building to be used there, which it hadn't, that had not been,
Right.
and so we made that change. What I heard, and I think all of us discussed it, is if you allow the general building to be used, that project will be
This is
successful.
the density then.
Yeah, it will give
I
them
don't
the
know that-
density.
I'm not sure that happened. Not sure that scenario was ran. Cause I asked that question of Belanger, the engineer, Dan, the owner.
Yeah.
And they said they had not seen that change or believe that it's there to correct the density issue. That's their belief as of a couple of weeks ago.
My understanding was that never got back to we never, so that concern came up. Again, I'm not the one working on this, is Sky, so this is just my understanding,
Yeah.
but Sky had worked with CPIC to come up with a solution. Which may have been the general building,
Right.
and that was meant to come back to the planning board, in subsequent.
Right. So I'm not saying it wouldn't work, I'm just saying I don't think it's been, a scenario has been put in front where
Right.
it resolves that issue.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There's a document that Sky shared with us, and I think it was our last meeting. And it's called Recode Crosswalk, May 2026. Changes since the April 2025 full draft. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 changes there. The very first one is related to Article 2, and it's in Table 2-3. The general building is to be allowed in Upper Village, except when directly fronting a designated front street. Another building can buffer between the general building and the designated front street, but you can use the general building.
Yeah, but I think that put the storefront back in the back or something, I don't.
No. The general building would need to be in the back. That's where he wanted the apartment
Oh, yeah,
building.
no, I know.
So that general building should allow him to get the
I don't
density.
know if they know that. I don't know if Landry knows that that's an
I
option,
believe this has gone to the planning board.
that doesn't.
Do you
No,
know?
it's my,
Yeah.
I thought that the change hadn't yet gone to the planning board,
The,
to
the
review.
revised code has not happened,
Right,
but the list of items to be ordered by the consultant to make the changes has been done and I think given to the planning board, but you tell me, because you're the one who works most directly with the planning board.
yes, that was,
Suggestion, regardless,
Yeah,
send it to the planning board. If it's the third time, so be it.
it's not up to me to do that. So Sky or Josh will do that. And this has been developed and my understanding is there are conversations that happen all the time with the planning department, as they should. And for somebody like Dan Catlin to be wanting to do a project and to say, look, we're making that change. It hasn't come out in the code because it's part of a list of changes that will be made, but it's going to be made. And of course, we were wondering, like, is this whole thing going forward at all? As of May 28th, it seems to be taking an inch forward,
so.
is my read.
Yeah, and I think part of it too was the planning board had, one of the things that, and I believe that they might be starting on this track a little bit, see where it goes, starting this Thursday.
Yeah.
They were looking at taking everything in kind of bite-sized portions,
Mhm.
and so that also could maybe delay the time it takes to get back to that issue. It depends on how the pace that they would like to go at is kind of what we're working with.
Yeah,
It seems to me that this is an issue that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. This one in particular.
and you mean this
I'm
across
talking
the
about
street?
Dan
Yes,
Catlin across the
yes,
street.
yes.
If we can resolve that so that he can move forward with his project, we, us, the planning board, whoever, as a group, should resolve it, not put it back on the back burner because they're doing something else. And had we not gotten pushed to the side to prepare for the town warrant in May.
Yeah.
Maybe some of this would not have fallen through the cracks as it has.
That's right.
Because
Well,
our meetings with the planning
To
board
get it
stop.
approved in your process is one thing, but to get it approved at the
Town
town,
meeting, yeah.
that's the thing, I mean,
Yeah.
Dan needs that as bad as I need
Understood,
that box
understood.
checked off in that table,
That's
so we
right.
can.
But I mean, the desire to have quote unquote bite-sized pieces my understanding is that every time we've had a workshop on recode with the planning board, and I know that hasn't been your initiative, but you've been present for those. And it feels like there is a memo, that there is material, but what I've seen happen, there have been maybe 3 or 4 workshops, and there is no actual engagement with the code. It's, it's all kinds of other stuff. It's emotional stuff, it's opinions, it's all kinds of other stuff. But
The planning board needs to read.
yes,
The
they need to
documents that
actually
staff
prepare and review
with
it.
that.
Yes,
And look at the code. If we're talking about, chapter 2, look at chapter 2.
Yeah, but they're gonna push back and you've heard it yourself. What did you change? What's the difference? Give me a red line version.
Got that,
Heard
you got that.
100
Yeah.
times.
And
Yeah.
that's what this crosstalk thing is trying to do,
Right.
because we can't,
So we're making progress. there,
yeah,
which
we're.
is-
I think so.
work it out,
I think so.
If they will work with us.
And the thing, I think Mark made a suggestion about how to proceed. And that, his suggestion was actually, let's look at something that's kind of challenging, which is the use table. And instead, I think they're gonna be looking at Tom's list of items. And so, we'll see what happens on Thursday. I would love to know, I'll talk to Sky or you before Thursday to know, like, were those changes actually made? Can we look at, and if they were, they can see what Tom's concerns were, and I'm hoping they were, because they can see Tom's list, and then they can see, those were corrected in the new code. That's my hope. And I looked back at, look at this. This is an old version. This is the version of the code. It actually says April 2024. So a year earlier, this is the one that we went through. I think there were 3 meetings with Tom Lister. We sat in this room for an hour and a half, 2 hours each time, and we went through all of the things that were needed to be corrected. And I think those were corrected. That's my hope. That's my hope.
This list has a column. And it said, in that column is resolved, pending, unresolved.
Yep.
Withdrawn. That implies that some action
Was
was
taken.
taken.
That's right.
In the April 2025 version 3 draft.
Yep. So we'll see. And Sky was here for that. So, it's like, it's so hard when things precede the current planning director. It's like, oh my goodness, how do I trace that back? What was the basis of that decision, because, yeah, it's been going for a long time. So the other aspects of the planning board meeting, we are moving forward. And I'm not sure after the Thursday meeting, what would be the next item. I think I agree that to allow a developer who owns land, who has a project that you can't do right now. You can't do it right now, right? The current code doesn't allow Dan Catlin to do what he wants to do. So the question is, in recode, where the town center zones are going to be designed, proposed to allow for greater density, where that makes sense, that's what would be allowed right there. There was one big building, right? I can't even remember what the Wright Pierce looked like back there, but there was a Wright Pierce building back there, and now there's nothing there.
It's a 4-acre lot.
Right.
Leslie's comments all through the process, Leslie being the consultant, she was encouraging higher density, and it still
Right.
does.
Right.
It's just some of the tools and the limitations in the form-based code for this Main Street section would not allow Dan to reach that density. I don't know if that was a unique situation or it's a whole thing that we need to adjust. I don't know. Maybe it was just the general building code, if that went in. I'm sure if he could get 80% of the 88, he'd be fine, or maybe 75% of the 88 units. I don't know that he has to have 88, but the way in his mind it was left is 44. No more.
Yeah, and the change is, we.
We don't know
yeah,
whether that's been
that's right.
communicated.
That's right. Yeah, this,
No.
oh, it's two, it was, so I didn't have a big enough thing, this is all.
Okay,
But in this one, I think is the April 2025 draft, that's April 2024. Do you want this one? Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. So yeah, you're,
Go ahead, I'm just,
so, and part of what Dan wants to do is, I think it went back. There was a workshop, a planning board workshop, I think it was May 2021. Where Dan Catlin had given a very rough sketch about what he wanted to do. And we worked it through as an example with the planning board. And because Rod was here, and he actually resigned that night. That was his last act. But we worked it through with the planning board so that the planning board could see that project review and approval would be much clearer and in fact easier and streamlined on a project like that. It was, there was a grid. Does it meet? Yes or no? And what are the problems? It was a very clear, very objective, rather than subjective, process. And it felt to me that night that things were beginning to click for the planning board about how this could actually be a good thing. And that, that it's the same project. I didn't know that Dan at the time wanted to put apartments behind, but he wanted to put a supermarket there.
Well, it was a small supermarket. It wasn't a Hannaford or Market Basket. It was a neighborhood supermarket, much smaller.
Maybe we can get it all out.
I think that time was past, but it could have been at the time. Yeah.
But part of what he was looking at and part of the challenge was being able to get a truck in for loading bays in there, because it's a big, yeah. Anyway, here we are. And
I don't think. We want form-based code, but we don't want form-based code to, we don't want the perfect to be the enemy here.
right,
We can have hybrid form-based code.
and this in fact is, it
So
already
we can-
is.
we can tweak it. We have the ability here in the planning board to tweak things to make them work for Topsham.
That's right. And here's one of the things that we talked about is this is written in InDesign?
That's what I understand.
And you know how to,
I do, but I'm
Use
scared
that.
to say that, but yes.
yes. So I think part of it is, we probably will need some professional guidance. What I'm thinking about is we may need to have an objective party, which often is a consultant, but in this case, I think the consultant we've chosen has not been, let's just say, it didn't feel like it was a good fit with the planning board. That's what it felt like from that workshop on. That's what it felt like to me.
Bad way to characterize.
Yeah. So, the question becomes, what do we do going forward? And we don't have to answer that today. We're gonna have a workshop on Thursday, and I'm hoping that we continue to kind of inch our way along.
Would it be worthwhile having a proposal to bring to that next meeting? Rather than saying we haven't thought about it yet and put it off,
To bring it to the meeting this Thursday?
yes. Instead of.
They already said
no.
they wanna talk about Tom Lister's list
Yeah,
and that's all.
that agenda
Oh, okay.
has been formed, and that's one of the things about
Mea culpa.
all of the town committees, planning board, select board, everything. The agendas are set over a week in advance and they're posted publicly a week in advance. And items not on that agenda are generally not discussed. So that people can be aware of what's gonna be discussed.
Sure.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that generally works. So we will be able to have that conversation. It's definitely not gonna happen today, but we do need to think about, you know,
I
how
think
to
we
move
need to
forward.
talk with Josh and
Sky,
Josh,
yes.
what's that planning board meeting?
options.
This one, it's this
No,
Thursday.
the one that they before. Was it June 4th?
The one that, when we talked about this,
Yeah.
there was no June 4th with the.
No, June 4th was a planning
Select
board,
board.
it was a select board meeting,
Before.
interviewing candidates for the planning board.
Before, yeah.
There was
The planning board
28th.
meeting, May
May
28th,
28th.
May 28th. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so we're moving forward, there'll be, you know, bite-sized pieces,
Let's see if I could tell you what the exact max density is for that lot.
well, and there's no, so right now, there are density issues, you know, in the current code there. And that's been a confusing thing, I think, for a lot of people is, but there are no density
Right.
limits. You know, it's like there are certain building types. And you can choose your building type, and so now we're giving one more building type that you can put in the upper village. It can be behind, it can't be on the front street.
So I wonder, I would wonder then for Dan's project then, like. Looking at the code, like if you were to do the general building, you know. Without having to sketch through it, like what, you know, what kind of density does he think that he could do with the general building?
General building, that's right, that's right.
You
Yeah,
I mean, he'll have Chris run that scenario instantly if he knows it's available. I don't think they've run that yet,
right.
that model.
And I mean, I'm assuming that now that we're at this point of the planning board engaging with Recode. And your planning board and Sky is Recode and you're working together on this, that, you know, the conversations about when questions come up, okay, what kind of density can be achieved there? You know, that there can be some collaborative conversations. Because people bring projects into the planning department all the time to see what's possible and what's not.
It's in a way, like it does, my understanding is that it actually frees up density, basically. Like what's supposed to be the win-win of form-based code is that basically you can have very, very, very large development, but as long as it matches something that the town has voted that it wants a certain area to look like.
Right,
So that you maintain the character.
right, that's
But
right.
then you can have, you know, but you can actually have more density, which is.
That's right.
I think,
So. Yeah, that. So we've talked about Tom's list. We're not gonna answer that today. Is there anything more that needs to be said about what came out of that planning board meeting? I think we're at that limit. There's nothing that needs to be said. We're inching forward.
We're inching forward and I hope that they remain open.
Yeah. To me, I think that's the key request. And, you know, in terms of, you know, please meet this with an open mind, you know, to see if it can actually offer something positive for the town. Could we, so I'm just looking at the time.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah,
If you bring that to the meeting and everyone says, yeah, let's take a look at it. You can walk, but from all I've heard, all the struggles over the years, that's not an inch forward, that's like a yard, maybe even a mile step forward. that's a big step in terms of getting collaboration, getting agreement, so on and so forth. And working towards the positive end as opposed to the negative end, if you will. I think it's a big step. That's my view.
But what is the big step? What are you saying is the big step?
Cooperation, agreeing,
Yeah.
solution,
Yeah,
working towards a solution. as
Well,
opposed to
I
what was
agree.
freedom.
yeah.
I've got
So-
it, Ron.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
You're always welcome, you know that.
So just maybe
Yeah.
the labels that are used, the titles of it, I don't know, but it sounds, this last 10 minutes sounds a lot more positive about what that meeting could be as opposed to inching along. Oh, who the hell wants to inch along? I think,
Well, I guess, part of it is, what some of us had hoped. I mean, I was hoping that the decision that they had reached would be changed. But they didn't do that. They decided not to do that. They decided to not vote, but
Yep.
move forward. And there were different possibilities, I think, considered about what might be tackled first. And the desire of the planning board was to look at Tom's list. So that's, we'll take it from there. Yeah, so I wonder if we could take a minute. And this is an area where I think Josh can be very helpful. The biggest change, and it's been a little bit of in terms of the map, the zones, right? There was no mixed transitional zone. And early on, we carved that out as being a little bit different than the bulk of the Topsham Fair Mall. And we didn't know what to name it. And then we were looking at there was a project coming along, and we looked at what Union Park Road looked like. And it was quite an odd collection of buildings, some residential, some commercial, some, and I don't know if there's a drive-through there. But there's a
tire store, some single family housing. Now there's a towing.
Yep,
place.
yep, it's
all
a
there.
lot of different things. And, the master plan development on the other side of that is the Crooker site, right? So it made sense to us to call that, it really sort of clicked one day to call that a mixed transitional zone. And it's similar there as it is on Park Drive. And one of the things we looked at is, it seemed to me that Park Drive is quite different. It didn't, Leslie suggested that, but it's not something that you notice only when you're driving through. I mean, you can look at the GIS maps and things and see what that looks like and what the rest of the Topsham Fair Mall looks like. And if they all look the same, it would be like, okay, there's no point in having that be a separate zone. But are they the same? I don't think they are, but I think that it's quite a distinct zone. It's mixed, but it doesn't look anything like the rest of the Topsham Fair Mall.
And I frankly don't understand why. Some of the planning board people are so against a mixed transitional zone. If we don't do anything to hurt anybody that's there now,
Right.
and we do stuff to encourage development and housing,
Right.
if you know what I mean. What's the problem?
Right.
I don't understand that.
Right.
I really don't.
Well, and one of the things I think, there was a modification along on the zone 3 or 4 years ago to allow Dan Catlin to put up 4 buildings, 80 units, which is currently under construction, right? On Park Drive. Now, there was a reason why he put that happened on Park Drive and not in the Topsom Fair Mall. It makes sense to me. And the thing is, I think because we looked at, we like, you know, you don't want to create grandfathered in, you don't want to create nonconformities. We started looking very closely at that. And so, retail hadn't been allowed. Well, why not? As long as as long as it's in an appropriate building, retail can be there. So, and there are a couple of retail operations right now. And that's another change to allow retail. Table 6.2, retail use permitted in mixed transitional zone. Now, I don't know, with that change, is there anything else that would be non-conforming currently along Park Drive? That's a good, I mean, that's the question to me. I think the planning board is assuming that there still are
I believe so.
non-conformities. I don't think there are.
I don't know what though.
Right. So let's just. Park Drive. So once retail is allowed, are there other non-conformities created by recode? That's the question we have to answer. Yeah. So anybody want to pipe in terms of, I don't know how often you've driven along Park Drive. I've gone to Goodwill a few times. I've even explored some of those
I
back.
went to the dentist at the other end.
There you go. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know, I have driven it a
Yeah.
couple of times, but I did go to the endodontics
yeah,
place
Yeah.
there, and I've been to Goodwill.
yeah. And where those 4 buildings are, apartment buildings are going up, you know, I remember, you know, tuning into a workshop, talking about there are a little bit of woods buffering the back. Is it Mallet Drive?
Yep.
Yeah, that's through that area.
And actually, there's like a ledge behind it, and then there's some woods on top of that.
Okay.
Mount Drive.
So there's kind of a natural separation.
I'm just checking my notes from the meeting on the 28th, and Chairman Span said there were things on Park Drive still not conforming. and I
Right,
don't
so
know
what
what those are, or whether he doesn't know about this.
Yeah, and that's part of that. So in addition to the open mind that we're all hopefully coming to bring to this conversation, the other thing is to agree on a common set of facts. Because there are some beliefs about, there are, you know, businesses that won't be allowed there. Is that true? We're gonna rely on you and Sky for that. You know, it's like, what will be changed by recode? Because it's not the goal of CPIC in this process to create nonconformities. It's to create a good set of guidelines, you know, for both businesses and residential, you know, development going forward. So that's the hope. So I don't have anything further, and on rare occasions, we actually end our meeting early. Is this?
You have a question?
Oh, there's also the liaison thing, if there's anything to bring.
Well, we did our letter,
Yeah.
TLT did their letter, the stuff was submitted on Friday, right?
Thursday.
So
Thursday, great.
Thursday, so
Yeah,
the
it's in.
grant request is in.
Yeah,
They're not gonna have a business meeting in July, they're gonna go, I think, walk around Mount Woods. Instead of the business meeting. And then they'll have a business meeting in August, and the 25th of August, Andrew Tufts from Maine is gonna be in this building, giving a talk on native plants.
huh,
which I intend to.
And who is he?
He's the guy-
Maine
he's He's the native plants guy from
Right.
Maine Audubon.
Which he's actually also, Chairman Tuck's son.
Oh, really?
Oh,
That I
interesting.
did
Oh,
not
that's
know.
great.
I mean, I've dealt with him before, I didn't realize there was a connection.
Yes.
I don't have, I know that it's the 25th, I don't have the time.
Okay, okay. So that's the August meeting.
Yeah,
So they don't take
August.
August off.
no, they will have a meeting in August.
Yep,
And then there will be this talk on the 25th of August. And then they may have a pollinator garden walk somewhere
in addition,
in addition.
okay. Well, we'll stay tuned for that.
But what I was gonna say
Yes.
was, are we going to have a workshop this month? Or is that dependent on what happens on the 11th?
I believe it's dependent.
I think it's
on what
dependent,
Okay, because I
you
still
know,
have it on my calendar.
okay. And
During the past meeting,
so that would be the 16th.
they neither, the approach that they took was that was kind of a, let's start here and we'll see. That was my understanding.
Mhm.
Said,
Yeah.
we'll look at it and then we'll see where we go
Yeah.
from there.
Right.
There wasn't really a definitive, like, yes or no, or.
It would be really good, I think, to have just that little piece of clarity on kind of where this stands with regard to just the information flowing to all relevant parties, not just the planning board, but to, a developer who already put the time and resources in to explore what he'd like to
You
do.
know, we kind of asked them to do that as a test case.
Yes,
And
yeah.
they did, and it showed
Yep.
problems and we fixed the
Yep.
problems and.
we
that-
thought we fixed the problems, yeah.
that's what
We need to
hasn't
move
been
forward.
made.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
If indeed there's a workshop coming up,
Yeah.
what would its date be?
It's always the third Tuesday. Third Tuesday, so it'd be the 16th. Yeah.
Any idea when, time?
It's always 4 to 5,
and dates?
unless it has to be changed for some reason. Last month it was changed to 3:30 to 4:30 because of some other meeting happening
Yeah.
right here. I remember as we left, I think the Energy
Yeah.
Committee was coming in. Yeah,
Or else it's gonna, I guarantee you, some
Yep.
of the committee's gonna have a meeting of it.
yeah. So I think we're done.
Not quite,
Not quite?
of course not.
Okay,
Sales guy, right? Sales guy.
okay, so talk to us. And this- on this agenda?
No, I'm just, think you don't have to put it into the notes or anything, yeah.
So, but are we finished with this agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I would like to adjourn the meeting. And other things can be discussed at future meetings because we've carried the agenda
Yeah.
and we're gonna abide by
Add stuff.
the rule, which you don't discuss things not on the agenda at the meeting. So we are adjourning this meeting at, what time is it? 5:33. We didn't take a motion for it, we just did it.
Right, just do it.
So